For most of human history, death has represented an absolute, terrifying void. It is the final psychological threshold where everything we know simply stops. The ancient text known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers a different framework. Within these pages, physical death is treated as a temporary transition, as routine as taking off an old set of clothes. The core concept here is the Bardo, a Tibetan word that translates to a gap or an intermediate state of consciousness between one life and the next. The text itself has a unique lineage. It is classified as a terma, or hidden treasure, originally composed by Padmasambhava in the 8th century and buried until it was unearthed by a Tibetan master hundreds of years later. What emerged from that discovery operates as a highly sophisticated psychological manual. It is designed to teach the living how to navigate the extreme edges of human consciousness. The manual describes the act of dying not as an abrupt switch, but as a precise stage-by-stage dismantling of the physical and mental self. It outlines a physiological dissolution of the elements holding the body together. The heaviness of earth collapses into water, water dissipates into fire, and fire scatters into wind. As the physical structures degrade, the consciousness is forced to detach from its failing biological container. At this critical threshold, the physical outer breath stops. However, according to the text, a subtle inner breath remains active within the central energy channel. The specific way an individual handles this final moment of physical dissolution determines their trajectory. Total awareness here leads to instant liberation, while a loss of focus thrusts them back into the cycle of rebirth. This brings us to the first major phase of the afterlife, the Chikai Bardo. This stage occurs in the immediate aftermath of physical expiration. Here, the deceased experiences what the text calls the inner radiance of the ground. Consciousness becomes naked, pure, and intensely luminous. The text provides a clear instruction for this exact moment. If the dying person can recognize this overwhelming emptiness as the true nature of their own mind, they bypass the rest of the afterlife entirely. Most fail this test. Conditioned by lifetime habits and terrified by the sudden loss of a fixed identity, human consciousness recoils from the light and retreats into unconsciousness. By flinching away from the pure void, the individual misses the window for instant liberation. Their consciousness is propelled downward, forced to navigate a much more chaotic reality. The individual awakens next in the Chanyad Bardo, or the intermediate state of reality. Operating within a mental body, the person is often unaware that they have actually died. Over a period of several days, they encounter a complex assembly of 42 serene deities, followed closely by 58 terrifying, blood-drinking figures. The manual reveals that every figure encountered here is an illusion. Every vision is a projection. The individual's own psychological states and deep-seated fears are broadcasting outward, creating a holographic, dreamlike environment around them. Fleeing these projections, the panicked consciousness eventually reaches the final stage, the Sidpa Bardo. Driven by the momentum of past actions, the mind desperately searches for a new physical womb. The afterlife described here is not a geographic location, it is a mirror. What a person experiences after death is dictated by the mental habits they cultivated while they were alive. Modern psychology often interprets this manual as an accurate map of the human subconscious, hidden just beneath the dense sensory overload of our waking life. Thinkers like Carl Jung saw these Bardo deities as examples of the collective unconscious, while medical researchers know parallels between the text descriptions and modern accounts of near-death experiences. It also highlights a distinct philosophical stance. While traditions like Hinduism describe an eternal soul carrying a fixed identity forward, the Buddhist concept of emptiness argues that there is no solid self navigating these stages at all. The Bardo framework focuses on identifying these psychological projections in real time. By training the mind to recognize fear as a mental event rather than an external reality, the practitioner develops a mechanism for navigating intense life transitions or identity-shattering events. How does studying the mechanics of the afterlife change the way we live today? The Dalai Lama explains that these instructions are primarily for the living. The focus is on observing the mind in its natural state, using the inevitability of death to remove distractions from the present. By confronting the ego in the present, the practitioner begins to see that the awareness they possess now is identical to the awareness that survives physical death. This continuity suggests that living and dying are merely different phases of one constant mental process. The quality of our attention in the waking world directly shapes the hallucinations we meet in the next. When an individual cultivates insight over the course of a lifetime, the end of that life ceases to be an object of fear. Instead, the final breath becomes the ultimate opportunity for liberation.